Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hutch's Garage for episode 3 of the garage rescue of a 1946 International Harvester LB engine. Back together, the first step will be putting the crankshaft into the engine. You may be wondering why this engine's sitting up on bolts. The reason I did this, they're 6-inch carriage bolts, they're 7/16 in diameter, and that's to keep it up so when I paint it, I can easily paint underneath it and all that sort of thing. So what I'm going to do is first lubricate the bearings. I'm also going to lubricate the upper bearing for the camshaft while I'm at it, so it's easier to get in there right now. So I'm using STP. And just kind of coating it real good in there. Also going to do the facings there, the thrust facings. Make sure that's got plenty of oil. And then when the engine runs, the oil will eventually wash most of this STP away and it'll mix with the oil. Then with a clean crankshaft, I'll oil up while I'm at it and makes it easy to do right now. A throw for the connecting rod. Then the end of the shaft that we're going to put inside the engine, which will be this end right here. She's ready to go in. Just take it like this, angle like that. Here, go in there and spins real easy. That's all there is to it, putting the crankshaft in. Right now we're going to put the connecting rod wrist pin onto the piston. Notice the L mark, this indicates up inside the engine. That is where the retaining bolt goes for the piston pin. It's kind of hard to see right there. So I'm going to put a little bit of STP on the upper connecting rod bearing for the wrist pin. Like so. Now, there's a punch mark that was on the engine originally, and I've also marked it with a yellow piece of paint. That will line up and tell me when I put it inside the engine, this faces up to make sure that oil hole is up, and so oil will get into that wrist pin and oil it as the engine runs. I'll also mark the wrist pin so it goes back in the exact same direction. So that goes up. Alright, let's slowly push it in. Make sure that hole's aligned as best as possible. Looks like it did pretty good. This is the retaining bolt, and I've already put anti-seize on that bolt. It's got a point on it to help guide that pin in case it's slightly out of line. Putting that bolt in there like so. Try to get it started. Alright, looks like it is. Now we're ready to tighten it up. 7/16 is the size of that bolt. There's a lock washer on it. There's not much room to... Alright, that should do it. We're ready to put the piston and connecting rod into the engine. I want to show you one thing here. Inside the cylinder, I've placed a piece of cardboard in a V shape, and it's long enough that it goes all the way back to the crankshaft and will pass through the opening for the connecting rod to pass through into the throw on the crankshaft. And that's to protect the cylinder walls as we place the piston inside the cylinder. So what I want to do first is get this connecting rod bearing oiled up with a little STP on it. Have it all ready to put in there. Don't get any on the facings. Keep those as clean as possible. We want to oil the cylinder. Get some oil going here. And it goes in from the front of this Picker engine like most auto engines do. There's a bevel right here, and that helps allow you to get that piston in there by squeezing the rings as you place it in there, and you just keep progressively push it in there. Now we also want to oil the piston. I'm going to oil the oil ring. I'll wipe this around. And while we're at it, I'm going to place a little bit more oil right here on the piston pin, if I can get it up here to show you. Make sure that's good and lubricated. Alright, I'm going to distribute this around. Also place a little bit on the rings, don't want to get too much on them. I got more than I really want, I think. Anyway, that'll all burn out once it starts running. I want everything to slide in there real well. Make sure the back end's oiled real well. And as you place it in there, it'll distribute the oil as we get her in there. Alright. Now, remember I said we want to make sure this is placed in the correct position so the connecting rod punch hole is up. And I'm going to place the connecting rod inside the engine on top of that cardboard, and that cardboard will go back into the engine as we slide her in. Alright, so we're back to this oil ring. Just squeeze it in like that. Kind of line it up as best we can. Okay, we're up to the first compression ring. May need a little persuasion. Oh, those are going in a little bit harder than I thought. So off camera, I'll be putting that in there. It's going to take a little bit of time to get that squeezed and pushed on in there. Alright, I actually did get that piston in there. We're doing what I said. I'm working those compression rings in and working around and just tapping slightly as you go. And eventually, I'll work them in there, and the piston's now at the very top. Okay, it needs to go back just a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to go around the back now and connect the connecting rod to the crankshaft throw. You can see that cardboard that I brought in there. Alright, remove this cardboard. I'm going to have to bring it back a little bit more and twist it a little bit. Here we go, we're getting there. As we do it, we're going to bring it so I can access it from the rear of the engine through the access hole back here. The bearing has actually moved on me a little bit. Trying to line it back up. It's lined up. Now going all the end cap. Make sure that bearing's in there good. There should be plenty of oil right there. I'm just going to place it on there. And start one of the bolts, the upper one. Make sure I do have the punch marks up so it goes back like it was, and it is correct. You can see I've got the connecting rod end cap in here right now. Got one bolt started, starting the lower one. These are 1/2-inch bolts, so I'm using a 1/2-inch socket. I snugged it down by hand. There is a lock plate that is assembled on there with the connecting rod end cap, and it'll be squeezed such that it locks those bolts so they don't come loose as it's run. And also make it hard to get that socket on there good. Not good. Next thing I want to put in are the lifters, and they do not go in from this end. You'll have to put them in from the front. The reason why I put them in now, I can see them better, and then I'll just make them flat, lay up here flat. I'll show you how to do that. Now on the end cap of the connecting rod, like I said, there's this locking plate, and you had to pry it open to get the thing off. And I finally got these nuts tight where I want them. I'm going to use a pair of vice grips and start squeezing this onto the nuts. They were not too snug, but they were snug enough they'd prevent the rotation of these bolts. Just one more time here. Okay, see there, around there. Do this one a little bit more. that does it. That's that. I want to talk about the oiling system for the valve levers. This is the oil pipe I showed you earlier, and this is an oil wick that goes down the full length of this pipe. And the best way to do it is mark it, of course, where this was originally, so if you can get it back exactly. Take this off and make sure you get it all the way down to the end of this. Oil will come in this way, and I'll stuff this all the way till it's just flush with this end of the pipe before I place it into the engine. It sits up here like this at a slight angle, and that's how the valve levers get oiled. Going to install the valve lifters into the cylinder block. I'm going to place oil in the openings, and they're installed from the front of the engine. Just a little bit there. I'll place a little bit of oil on the lifters themselves. Spread around, just pull a bit on the face. Set that one aside. Alright, the way to do that is use a magnetic rod like this and place this inside the lifter like that into the hole there, and reach up and stick it in. Easier than said and done. And snap it out. Let's do the next one. This is the intake side. Actually, I'm going to take a push rod, stick up there and hold it so I can pull this magnetic piece out. Alright, we got it out. While we're up front, let's go ahead and put the oil pipe in. Here's the wick sticking out right here. I'll make sure that's kind of flush with the end of the threads. This is an anti-vibration and support. It's made out of felt, and it goes towards the front of the engine. And you just kind of have to reach in there and make sure this is going to go in there. Gotta feel around for that hole. There we go. And bring that felt a little bit farther forward. It is turned on me. Should be like so. It should be like that. That's all there is to it. Then we're ready to put the head on. You always want to get that on there because the head will interfere with turning that. So that needs to go on first. And it just fits in there snug like that.
That's all the time we have for this episode. Thank you for watching this video. Please stay tuned for episode 4 on this 1946 International Harvester LB engine rebuild, where I finish installing the valve train, cylinder head, governor, camshaft, and side cover. If you liked this video, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I've planned for future videos on my 1954 International Harvester Farmall Super MTA tractor. Please join me as I give a history of this tractor and will then begin a rebuild of the tractor.